All right, are we live? Yes, we are. Okay, awesome. Cool. Alrighty.
Yeah. And we'll do this.
Okay, hi. How are you guys doing
Yeah.
tonight? We are here. We're home alone currently because mom's on a trip, and I guess my brother's also on a trip.
Yeah, Brother Disney Assembled's on a retreat for school, and Mrs. Disney Assembled is out of town.
Wedding.
Yeah, she's
Just
out
at
of
a
town with some
wedding.
friends
Wait,
at a wedding and all that good stuff. But we are here
We are. Yes, so we're
in a
going
different
live.
space.
Yeah, I love when we get to record the show when we're home alone because we get to sort of advance out of our studio. I love our studio, but we record at this little bitty table that's like barely the size of the computer. It can be very crowded. But now we are at the dining room table. We've got the living room in the back, and we are nice and not cramped. I got my nails done. Everybody clap. Yeah.
Well done.
I'm loving this color.
You know what we don't have down here? We don't have the trivia question for this week with us down here.
We don't. We do not.
Do you want to run and go get it real quick while I entertain the people, or do you want to just skip it this week, or what do you want to do? Because this will be episode 255.
The question was hard this week,
but we had people get it.
Wait,
I think we did.
Maybe I can remember what it is based on.
Or we can just pull up another trivia question from the
answer
thing. Yeah. Yep.
Oh wait, this is your personal, not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually.
Yeah.
Do not remember what the question is. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can go get it.
Doesn't matter. Or you can just use my phone and pick another trivia question.
Well, I have to get the question from last week. I'll be right back.
You want to go get it?
Right? Yeah.
And then we'll I'm going to start with the hey, howdy, hey when you get back?
Yeah.
So we're just going to sit here and entertain people. Hello, Andrew. Welcome to the Disney Assembled live on our YouTube channel. And Mimi's going to get our trivia question for the week. I have a dad joke pretty much ready to go. So I'm not too worried about that. And that's about it. Great to be here. It's great to be here too. Fulton's here. Liesel's here. Got no bike accident. Oh no. Be careful, Fulton. Be careful. Was it icy? Was it because of the ice or the snow? Hope you're okay. Hope you're wearing a helmet too? Yeah, Fulton had a bike accident and he's getting stitches.
Oh my gosh. I hope you're okay. That's awful.
I think you'll be all right.
Both cats followed me upstairs when I went upstairs. Bike accident.
Yeah, it's all good. So we got our trivia question ready to go?
Yes.
I have a joke ready to go. We have a topic ready to go. Are you ready to start the actual show?
So similar to how we did the last live episode, we are going to just sort of do this very weird cut where we actually start the show part and we do the hey howdy hey part. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us at 8 o'clock.
Before we do that, you guys that are in the chat and watching, is the sound coming through good on your end is the question. Do you hear us? I guess I could pull up the show on my phone and put my earpods in, but that would be kind of weird, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, I think
I don't really want to do that.
I think just wait until Andrew says something about it.
Okay.
If they couldn't hear us, we would know. Okay, I don't want that on there anymore. So.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, awesome. You ready to get started?
Oh, you guys in the chat, are we coming through loud and clear? Can you hear us well? Go ahead and chime in. Leave us a comment in the chat. Because I know you're there. Clear on my end. And no static.
All right,
Perfect.
Let's get started.
All right, you ready?
Yes.
All right. Hey, howdy, hey. Well, that's not a good word.
No, and it's also way too quickly after I said my word, so it'd be hard to cut. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, howdy, hey, and welcome to another episode of Disney Assembled. I'm Troy.
And I'm Mimi.
And we are your happy little father-daughter podcast here to create joy and share our love for all things Disney.
Disney Assembled is sponsored by our patrons over on Patreon. If you'd like to join them, check out patreon.com/Disney Assembled.
Yeah,
We are live.
We're live, and we'd appreciate your consideration for that. We're live on our YouTube channel, episode 255. 255, I believe. And we have,
on the back of my neck.
I'm sorry to hear that. We have a pretty good topic this week that we came up with a couple of hours ago.
Yeah, I'm
So
excited.
that's actual preparation. We came up with a topic that long in advance.
Did we think about the topic? No. We just were like, oh, let's do that. And then we moved on.
We did. And so now we have a topic. It's going to be a great topic. It'll be the best topic that this show does this week. And hey, Jeffers is there. Hey, welcome, our friends from Canada. So, yes, we have a topic of the week. We have a dad joke of the week. And we have a trivia question for the week.
The answers.
Oh, yeah. Don't show them the answers.
Now that you can see anyway.
All right. Do you want to? Let's talk about what we're going to talk about this week. So, we collectively are big believers in storytelling. And this week, we're going to talk about storytelling. We're going to talk about our opinion about what makes a story good, right? What are the concepts that a good story has? And we're going to talk about that as it relates
Jeffers'
to...
comment is really killing me.
Yeah, Jeffers, please don't annex us. No.
Believe me, if I had the control... we would be a province of Canada.
No, don't say that. But no. Jeffers, we will not annex you, I promise. You're safe. So, not that I have any authority over that, but
moving on.
I already did my part to try to prevent the annexation of Canada. But you never know. We may end up with the Gulf of America. We live kind of close to that, or maybe
we do live in the Gulf of America.
Or maybe the Gulf of Texas. I heard someone refer to it as the Gulf of Texas at some point. We're getting way too political for my liking.
The Gulf of Ted Cruz.
The Gulf of Golf. All right. The Gulf of misunderstanding. The Gulf of perspective.
Disney Assembled loves storytelling.
Yeah, we're going to talk about storytelling this week. We're going to talk about things that we think make stories good stories. And we're going to do that by layering over examples that we think from Disney stories. Like, what are some good examples, maybe not so good examples? We can draw upon inspiration from Marvel and Star Wars and Disney itself and all that stuff. So that's our topic for this week.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this because we've, in the past, we've talked about storytelling sort of in passing, and we've mentioned, why we think Disney is successful in certain projects because of their storytelling abilities. And I think that part of the main reason that we really like Disney is because of its storytelling and how immersive and creative it is with how it tells stories. So I'm excited to sort of do a deep dive and give you guys a more clear understanding of what we mean when we talk about what makes good storytelling.
Exactly. And we're going to get into that. They say that the camera adds 10 pounds. I say Thanksgiving and Christmas adds 15. So this video, as I'm watching myself on the screen, it's like I want to suck my cheeks in. It's like,
no, you don't.
It would be hard.
Maybe
it's this is my Bob Iger cardigan sweater with the shawl.
Oh, that reminded
the shawl
me.
Collar, right? Got my Bob Iger sweater on for Disney. I got my shirt with no tie ready to go. And
I'm wearing my Texas shirt.
Yeah.
So that we beat OSU tomorrow. Hook 'em.
Yep, that'll be tomorrow. So, all right. We want to jump into we had a trivia question last week. We had a couple of our listeners who are, I believe, are with us right now submit answers.
Yes.
Let's find out if they got the question right. Go ahead and let's go over last week's trivia question.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Last week's Disney trivia question was, in the animated film The Hunchback of Notre Dame, who is Quasimodo's repressive guardian? And the answer was Judge Claude Frollo.
All right, Frollo.
Arguably one of the scariest Disney villains of all time.
Andrew and Liesl, thank you. You got that one right. Congratulations,
yes.
Frollo.
Little claps for you.
Right.
Can you even hear them on the new mic? Do you have to be like, because the new mic drowns out the background noise?
Right.
Like, it used to not drown out the background noise, but now this one does. So I'm like.
Right. Jeffers for Prime Minister, by the way. Jeffers, we're voting for you.
I want to backtrack
counts.
on the Bob Iger thing.
Right.
So I work in a restaurant. If you've listened to Disney Assembled before, you know that I work in a restaurant. I'm a waitress. And I was waitressing over my break. on my very last shift of my break, which was last Monday, it was on Monday. There was like this guy and this girl, and it seemed like they were on like a first date, like Hinge situation, which you see all the time when you work in a restaurant. And he was talking about Bob Iger and how Bob Iger left Disney and came back and like sort of how he did like XYZ things his first time around, and then he came back and he's doing those same things again. And he was just going and going about the Disney company. And I was like bussing his table, like pretending like I wasn't listening, even though I definitely was.
It'd be hard for him to do the same things, but it was good that guy came in there and gave you something to listen to while you're working.
Dude,
because
for real.
I mean, all the stuff Bob Iger
songs.
did. I mean, he bought Pixar, he bought
Yeah, no, I
Lucasfilm,
all of those
they
things have been
built Shanghai
beneficial.
Disney. I mean, all that was under.
And Hong Kong, didn't he do both?
I don't know.
He did-
I just
he bought
started
2
reading.
parks.
I just started reading the Bob Iger's biography, the one he wrote while he was there the first time. I am just starting chapter 1. I read the prologue, and it's a very interesting prologue. I don't want to spoil it, so get a book and read, ladies and gentlemen.
But
Read
yeah,
a book.
they were talking about the Disney company and Bob Iger, and I had to pretend like I didn't know everything he was talking about and more. Anyway, so
All
that's
right.
the trivia question.
That's trivia
Stick
question
around
this week.
for a new one at the
Yep.
end of the episode. We are on the green one.
Ooh.
We've graduated to the green color.
And if you could assign a color to the Disney dad joke of the week, what color would you
Yellow.
assign it? Yep. Why?
That's the vibe I get.
Yellow.
Yellow.
A color that's not on that card. What colors are on that card?
It's red, blue, pink, green, yellow.
All right. So I would say brown.
Brown.
Brown is the color of the Disney dad
No,
joke
like
of the week.
red is the
Because
color
it
of the Disney dad
stinks
joke.
every week.
Okay.
It stinks like brown. You know, it's brown and
It's like
sticky.
A
A stick. That's not the Disney dad joke of the week. All right. Are you ready for the Disney dad joke of the week? Are our listeners out there and watchers, people joining us live, are you ready? I don't know if you're ready for this
Probably
one.
not, no.
Okay. We're going to do it anyway. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Disney fans of all sorts, it is time for this week's Disney dad joke of the week. Mimi,
Yeah.
did you know when they opened the Galaxy's Edge, originally the restaurant there, Docking Bay 7, was going to serve Wookiee meat? Did you know that? They were going to serve
I
Wookiee
did
meat.
not know that.
The problem is it's a little too chewy.
Okay.
Get it?
Yeah.
Chewy.
Chewy, Chewbacca.
It's a little too chewy. That
I think that would have been really scary.
is this week's Disney dad joke of the week.
Disney dad joke of the week. Is
Yes.
Wookiee meat like similar to mystery meat in a public high school cafeteria?
It's a lot like Salisbury steak covered in maple syrup. So it's a little gamey.
Oh,
It's a little gamey. It's like Salisbury steak with maple syrup. I say that because Jeffers is there and we got a Canada we have to represent.
In
So
the chat, let us know what your favorite brand of maple syrup
what
is.
do you think Wookiee meat would taste like?
It would taste like the chewy meat that you and mom used to make
Right.
when we were kids. Okay,
So it's basically the cheapest
cheapest
round steak
steak
possible,
cooked as much as humanly possible.
pounded into oblivion
Yeah.
by a mallet.
Yeah.
Covered with flour and sauteed in a
Yeah.
pan.
Yeah,
That was what we really called it, chewy
yeah.
meat.
We I
Yeah.
grew up.
Gaming. Andrew says
When
it's
I was a
gaming. I think it's
kid,
gaming, yeah.
My mom used to cook this meal called chewy meat, and I don't know.
Sasquatch of space. Wookiees, the Sasquatch of space. Yes,
I don't
Jeffers.
know why it was called chewy meat, besides the fact that it was chewy, and it was literally like the cheapest piece of steak, hammered, but like not with a meat hammer, with a
Right.
mallet, because we don't own a meat hammer. Because why would you own a meat
No,
hammer?
we have a meat hammer. It's
We
got
did it then, and then she like just would cook it
right.
as much as humanly possible. I think that's why my brother likes all of his meat well done now.
Maybe. All right. If you have a Disney dad joke that you would like us to consider using on the show, what you have to do is send an email to disneyassembled@gmail.com. If you do not want to take credit for your joke, we will.
We
but,
will take
But we will
credit.
also give you credit if you have a joke that is family friendly and we haven't used it before. We'd love to consider it. So
Yes.
there's that. All right. Let's jump in to the topic.
I'm excited.
Storytelling. Now, I do a lot of storytelling in my job because I think every successful organization has to have leaders who know how to tell a good story. I think I know how to tell a good story, but at least I understand. I when I see a good story, I know a good one from a bad one.
Right. And I think it takes a certain level of understanding of creativity to be able to comment on what makes a good story and what doesn't, and like what works and what doesn't. And I think understanding the nuance of like these things work and these things don't, and that's okay. Like nothing is perfect, but I think that even some of the things that Disney have released recently that have not been great still have a little bit of merit to them because of their
Right.
sheer storytelling ability. And that's something that like the ability to recognize those things is sort of something that you and I share. Obviously, like my entire line of work, like in college, is based around storytelling. Like I'm in public relations and I'm in communication, and like so much of that now is now telling the story and creating a story of a brand or what you want to say, like in the most creative way possible. And then being in creative writing in high school, like that also really did a number on my storytelling understanding. So
Yes.
I'm excited to get into this.
Yeah. So, and just in general, good storytelling to me, I mean, there's a couple of concepts that I think are important to have when you're thinking about, was this a good story or not a good story, right?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, is it memorable? Do you remember the story itself? Because if you don't remember the sort of key elements and what happened, like if you can't say what the conflict was or who the different characters were, if it's kind of unforgettable, it's probably not a good story.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the first layer for me is it a forgettable or is it a memorable story? The other thing for me is, I mean, there's a character element in there. Are the characters, can you identify with them? Are they well developed? Do you care about the characters?
Mm-hmm.
And then whether or not the conflict they find themselves in is believable, right? I mean, even if it's a fantasy story, is it a relatively plausible conflict?
And I think a really good example of that, I was talking about this with a really good friend of mine. I recently, it's not Disney, it's Universal. Don't sue me, but I think Jurassic Park and like the Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, whatever franchise does a really good job of creating conflict and story that is plausible, that is interesting. Like I can completely buy and understand scientifically how pulling the blood out of a caramelized mosquito would create the DNA to build a dinosaur. Like I completely, like that makes enough suspend belief logical sense. And I think that
it'd be different if they put the thing in a microwave and a dinosaur came out.
Or even if they just said, oh, we brought dinosaurs back with no explanation. And I think that having that level of believability is really, really important with storytelling. My take on storytelling is a little bit simpler, I think. For me, when I'm creating stories and I'm writing stories and I'm intaking stories, the main thing for me is character. And you sort of talked about character, but I think what makes a successful film, show, movie, whatever, or film and movie the same, but I think what makes a successful story is when you have characters that people can relate to. I think what keeps people coming back to the princesses, to characters like Katniss Everdeen, characters like Toy Story, the Toy Story characters, is the characters. I mean, like they have this.
There's something about their personality and their characteristics that is universally recognizable.
Right. And there's different kinds. There's man versus man. There's man versus world, man versus machine. And these are all basic story conflict templates, but they all have man versus blank, right? And so without the solid foundation of a good character, of a good man, not like actual man, but like man versus whatever, you don't, nothing else about it, people are not going to buy into anything unless your character gives them that gateway into believing what's going on. And I think a really good example with Disney is Marvel and what they've done with Wanda. I think that they've made Wanda, I think originally she was a very angry teenage girl who was, I mean, she was experimented on, and she had a lot of rage in her, and she was really naive and new to the world, and she just didn't really know what was going on. But they have taken this character and they have made her a villain, a really dangerous, powerful, scary, ruthless villain that people feel bad for because she's a grieving mother. And I think that if she didn't have that complex nuance or that intentional relatability and emotional like layer to her, nothing that Disney does or Marvel is producing would be as successful.
Right. And I think the Marvel storytelling is a little bit different for Disney because they're playing with characters that have already been developed through comics for decades, right? So these are all characters that have so many stories and so much history to draw upon. It doesn't mean they're going to get it right every time, but superhero stories are a little interesting because, because it's a visual medium and these are characters coming out of a comic page, sometimes what really gets in the way is how you present them visually, right? So unlike maybe some other stories where characters, you have costumes and you have the way they look, but you can't really fault them, right, for that. But if you have a superhero character that just looks ridiculous because you're used to seeing it look a certain way in a comic, it really does a lot of damage to the character, and it hurts the actor's ability to deliver a believable performance, because if you are portraying a well-known character, there's going to be an expectation of what you're going to see, right?
And what I really like about this is that they have taken these characters that are literally two-dimensional and they've made them very intentionally 3D. The Dillos have popped in to say hi. Hi, Dillos. Heart emoji. Good to see you guys. We were just watching y'all's live before this. It's good to see you guys. We're talking about stories.
Thank you so much. We're talking about storytelling. And so let's stick with the character thing first of all. I think characters, how do you relate to a character? Well, there has to be something about them. It's easy to relate to a character that you see something, either you aspire to be yourself in that character, or there's something that character is doing that you identify with because you've been there and done that. I think those are easy ways to sort of relate to a character. But developing a character in the beginning of a film or a show is really important, because it's like, well, why should I care about this person, right? Why should I? So let's think about an example of a very good character.
Well, the first one that comes to my head is Merida.
Okay, you're going to talk about Merida. Okay,
yeah, I would really like to talk about Merida. I think Merida is a really great example of bringing your audience into the film through her relationship with her mom. I think most teenage girls have a really tumultuous relationship with their mother, and they get along great with their dad, and their brothers are, they're sort of these passive characters in their lives at the moment. But, when you're 16 and you're 17 and like your mom is like really like difficult to be around, and I'm difficult to be around, right? And it because you're so similar.
Never.
Well, Merida and her mother are so similar, and they make that really intentional choice of showing how similar they are just so that they can justify how rocky their relationship is during that film. And that is really what it was like for me being, a teenager. And while my mom is my best friend and I love her so much, and we had plenty of good moments when I was living here, do not get me wrong, but it's not unusual for teenage girls to sort of go like this with their mom.
Well, no,
when they're in high school, everybody does that. And I think Merida is a really good example of that, because from the get-go, they are able to bring that part, that's now you're getting mothers and daughters roped in, through that experience, through understanding that experience, to now then care about what she's doing and her independence and her freedom to not be married. And then on top of that, you want her to fix her mom. You want her mom to not be a bear anymore. You know what I'm saying?
And she's impulsive and she doesn't think through what she's doing, and she lets her emotions dictate a short-term decision that had long-term damage that she had to undo.
But what I really like about her is yes, all of these things are very relatable for teenage girls and mothers, but it's a kids film. So how does that translate to kids? Well, they've given her such a clear motivation. She fights with her mom and she wants to do what she wants to do. And I think a lot of little kids fight with their mom or fight with anybody because they're stubborn and they want to do what they want to do.
Right.
And they have created what I really truly love about Brave is that is a character that's so nuanced that she takes on a new meaning as the viewer gets older. The little kids love that she's brave and she wants to be involved in what the boys are doing with the archery, and she wants to have control over her fate. And the little kids just like the bear and the magic, right? And then the older kids sort of really begin to understand her and what she's like. And that's my long-winded rant about Merida.
Scott Campbell joining us. Scott, thank you for introducing yourself. Welcome. All are welcome. We appreciate you being here. I want to talk about a character from my childhood that I think is a really good example of character development and how you end up caring for this character over time. And that's Luke Skywalker. I'll talk about Luke Skywalker for a moment. So when we first are introduced to Luke, there's something about him we can recognize, we can identify with. He's stuck on this moisture farm, on this desert planet. His life is very routine. It's boring. All his friends are off trying to get ready to join, the rebellion and be pilots and take off and go to the academy and have adventures. And he's stuck on this little farm. And it's like every season, it's like, well, maybe next season. Well, we really need you. And the truth is we end up finding out the reason, the reason that Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru keep doing that to him is because they want him to stay safe. Like they know who he is, right? They know that he's there for a reason, and they know that, Ben is out there, but he doesn't know that. So we can identify early Luke with sort of wanting these adventures and wanting to get away from this boring life. And he finally gets away. And
also, like when you meet him, he is also a little kid. Like literally, he is a child.
Right. Well, in the prequels, he's a child. Right.
True.
Right.
Okay,
well, you don't really get to meet him in the prequels. You see him born and being handed off. Right. Because you're talking about Anakin. I'm talking about Luke.
Yeah, but I still think like he's like a kid.
Right. But but he's a young man. He's probably in the movie sense, he's probably in his late teens, whatever. Right. Now he goes off, he has his adventure, he's impulsive, but he's got talent, and he grows and he learns and he matures. And by the time the Return of the Jedi comes around, he comes full circle, and you see him as sort of this fully functioning adult who's gone through this big transformation, and you've been along the journey with him all the way through. There's also conflict with his father, right? And so a lot of sons and fathers, they come into conflict. Your brother and I, sometimes we don't see eye to eye, right? He doesn't understand what I do. And, I'm not Darth Vader. I'm not out there destroying planets and everything, but, Luke Skywalker. And I think that's one of the reasons why, there are a lot of good characters in the original trilogy of Star Wars that were established. I mean, Darth Vader is a character that got established right. Of course, the look of Vader helps tell the story of Vader.
Right. And I
think the thing that, right. And I think one of the reasons why what was it? Not the last Skywalker. What was it called? The last movie?
Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker. Don't do that. So the Rise of Skywalker, I think one of the reasons people did not like that movie, and the one before it, The Last Jedi, I think it was more The Last Jedi, is Luke was portrayed very differently in his old age. Like his progression of his character, you assumed was going to be, even if he was a hermit, this Yoda
like a hero
type character
or an optimist at all, and that was very out of character.
And even Mark Hamill was critical of how that was done. And of course, then he dies because of an overexposure to the Force, right? So to speak.
Basically, yeah.
Right. So I think that's an example of both a good character development and good storytelling, and doing something with a character that was so, I mean, it's okay to do something surprisingly, but it was so different that I think it actually hurt some of the storytelling. It
Yeah.
relied too much on mythology and
And like
mysticism,
speculation
right?
and
And
all of
rather
the stuff
than
that
just nuts and bolts good storytelling.
yeah, and it's not even just storytelling too, like fan service is nothing to like shake a fist at, but that's a completely different conversation. We've talked a lot about like protagonist characters, but I want to talk about antagonist characters and villains. I think villains also can really make or break a story. We talked about this specifically with what was it? Oh, the Marvels. We talked about this after we saw the Marvels. We, contrary to popular opinion, really kind of enjoyed the Marvels.
It was fun.
It was a fun movie. And the character of Captain Marvel is sort of going through a renaissance right now, and so we're sort of putting her on the back burner. But the Ms. Marvel character has a very solid foundation from that TV show, and I think they established her as a very like spunky, smart, ambitious fangirl that just wants to do the right thing. And then the Monica Rambeau character is on the up and ups, but we've sort of learned like a little bit about her motivation and who she is and where she comes from and just sort of her place in the world, right? And so when you take these like three characters that I think are pretty solid like 7 out of 10 characters, you put them together. I mean, they were great and they were fun. And then you've got Nick Fury, who's obviously a very solidified character in the MCU. But the thing that fell short for us with the Marvels was the villain. She didn't seem to have motivation that made any sort of sense. And usually with a villain, you can sort of like understand their point of view or have empathy. Like Captain Hook, for example, the Croc ate his arm because of Peter Pan, and now he's after Peter Pan.
Right.
Right? I mean, like that makes
Yeah, I couldn't tell you
logical
right
sense.
now who the villain of the Marvels was.
I couldn't tell you who the villain was. All you know is that she really fell flat for us. And I think villains, although they're not the end all be all of a story, it's kind of like what you were saying earlier. If the conflict is not entertaining and the conflict is not sustainable, your story can really fall flat. It doesn't matter how strong your hero is. If your actual conflict and your villain doesn't match that level of like coolness, you're just gonna fall flat. And I'm gonna go back to the Hunger Games on this. It's not Disney. I'm sorry. Don't kill me. But Katniss is a really strong protagonist character, and the Capitol and President Snow is equally as strong of a villain, right? And I think a really good example of this within the Disney universe, kind of like Captain Hook and Peter Pan, is Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. Like you've got these two very powerful characters, and they have their whole level of nuance.
Well, it's even
being
better
father
when
and
you
son.
care about the villain.
Right.
I mean, look, a villain that has a logical reason for being motivated to do the things they do adds to a really good story. Like I can't think of a single time I've seen a film or read a story in which the villain had a legitimate sort of, it may be warped, but at least a logical or an understandable reason to be doing the things they're doing. Then those are usually good stories, right? Because if the villain is well established, in order to defeat that villain, you have to have a character, a hero that is at least as strong or is able to overcome that level of dysfunction.
Right. And Andrew brings
Andrew's
up
point,
Thanos,
yeah.
and I think Thanos is a really good take on this because the MCU built up Thanos as this really big, bad, scary villain that wanted to take over the world and had the Infinity Stones and blah, 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 XYZ, fill in the blank. And they matched that with having every single Avenger fight him. And I think that although having the whole like Avengers Assemble, like Cap and the Hammer, I am Iron Man, like I think all of that had a lot of fan service in it, and it was just like this big moment to bring everyone together. But I think it also had a really good storytelling and thematic meaning because you can't build up a character this much and give them literally 3 movies of build up to this big final fight just to have them get taken out by Captain Marvel or have them be taken out by Captain America or Iron Man, right? Like you need to have an equal fight to this big, bad, scary villain. And I think having every single Avenger show up to fight Thanos and then still still losing in the original film,
right?
In the first one, I think that is a really good example of a villain that is well developed, well taken care of, well explained. And and well sort of I like
Well,
just sort of
right.
supported. Like his evilness is supported by the fact that that they lost, right? And then you have the added layer of Nebula and Gamora, and now you feel empathy for Thanos, even
Right.
though he's awful.
And even Andrew's point in the series Hawkeye, you see graffiti on the wall that says Thanos was right. So, so when the villain is so good and is so well established that the characters in the fictitious universe are pulling for them,
Right.
then it, it's really. The other thing is that the villain is just so ludicrous and out there. There is a sometimes being a perfect foil to a almost impossible to mimic hero is good. Like, and again, to use a non-Disney example, part of the reason why the Joker is such a powerful and good villain to Batman is because he's like the complete opposite, right? I mean, Batman has a very definitive reason for doing what he does. The Joker is the exact opposite. He has absolutely no reason. And the only reason he does it is because there is no reason. He just does it because he does it.
Right.
Right. And so that makes it even more frightening. But to a Disney point, we've talked about some bad villains. We talked about the one in the Marvels. It's hard to talk about bad villains because you kind of tend to forget that they even existed to begin with. Right. So some of the worst Disney stuff that's come out recently, I say worse, in my own opinion, the things that I enjoyed the least. Right. And I think back to like Raya in The Last Dragon. I couldn't tell you who the villain was. I know it had something to do with some sword and and taking over the planet.
Right.
I think I can't even think of the films, to be honest with you. Elemental.
Well, that didn't have like an actual antagonist. That was a man versus world film. They were fighting their societal norms that they can't be together. There was no actual person telling them, no, you can't be together.
Right, but it was a less powerful version of Romeo and Juliet.
Right. No, exactly.
Right. And so
when the conflict is not great,
right, because the only thing that kept them apart was the fact that they were water and fire. It wasn't that their families were angry at each other, but one was water and one was fire, and not supposed to be with the other, right? And that just doesn't make it just was sort of a stretch for me.
And like Onward too didn't have very much of a conflict. It was just one brother, or like they had to bring back the dad or something. I'm not like Onward was sort of unforgettable, but that brings me to my point about Inside Out. And we talked about Inside Out a little bit last week, and I think Inside Out is one of the most incredible examples of storytelling that Disney has produced in recent years. I talked about last week how I think it's very similar to Toy Story, and I think it's successful for the same reasons that Toy Story is successful. I think whenever Disney decides to create a real child who is relatable and acts like a real child, Andy acted like a kid, Riley acted like a kid, and then in the second movie, they were both teenagers who acted like teenagers when they were relatable and not glorified versions of happy, nice kids that always followed the rules and never drew on their Barbies and, never let their toys just like sit on the shelf broken. Like, I don't think that that's successful. And, I could talk about everything that I say about Inside Out, I think could also be translated to Toy Story and vice versa. But I think Inside Out, particularly the sequel, was super successful because although there was an actual villain in Anxiety, that has taken a sort of real world concept and put it into a film and a medium that children can understand, that is not overkill, that is accurate and effective. And as a 13-year-old who had so much anxiety, I really related to her. Like, I couldn't even look at her as the villain because that's what it's like when you're 13. When there's a line where Anxiety goes, if we like what they like, they'll like us. And I'm like, that's perfect. Right. And I think what Disney does really well when they choose to do it well is really what makes their storytelling so compelling for me. When they bring in these massive, sort of scary, real world problems into their children's mediums, like Anxiety or Depression with Eeyore and Winnie the Pooh, or,
Right, because
like
the
moving, and 2 is a huge concept for kids, like with Toy Story and even Inside Out as well. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, these are really big concepts that they've put into short form, and
Right.
I think that is very successful.
Well, the
storytelling.
antagonist doesn't have to be evil. It just has to present a challenge that the hero has to overcome.
Right.
And the challenge needs to be credible based on what we have learned and cared about the hero. So let's look at Buzz and Woody as characters. Good, well-established characters. They have very distinct personalities. They have very distinct and obvious weaknesses. But they also, because of their personalities and because of what they are, they have very distinct and of powers and benefits, right? And so they're faced with situations. One of their big drawbacks is their toys, right? And they can't be seen as sentient beings when humans are around,
Mhm.
right? So that's one of the big challenges that in Toy Story, the main characters, your protagonists have to overcome is that when a human being's around, they have to lay on the floor and just be toys,
Right.
right? But when they're not, with a human, they have the ability to make decisions and take action. And what are they motivated? What are they motivated by? Well, they're motivated by making children happy.
They want to
right?
be Andy's favorite toy.
Right. They want to be. They're loyal to the toy's owner, right? The user, and each other, right? They look out for each other. So, I think in terms of storytelling, they establish early on why you should care about these characters. Why should you care about Sheriff Woody?
Mhm.
Because the main human in the story, Andy, it's his favorite toy, right? And within the first 5 minutes of the movie,
I know, this is so itchy.
you know that Woody is important to Andy, right? Because
Right.
Andy's got this whole elaborate setup, right? And he's
Just
got
so
all
that
the
he can play with
toys
Woody,
playing,
right.
and Woody's the hero. In the very first scene of Toy Story, and Andy's playing with his toys, Woody is the hero.
Mhm.
So we were immediately told as an audience, this character is the one you should care about. It's also the one voiced by Tom Hanks. And so, okay, obviously.
Well, and then after
But-
that scene ends, you see Woody sort of commanding the other toys and sort of being the leader within the
Right.
cast of toy characters, right? And so you have this very clear, obvious villain. And I think what makes Toy Story and even Inside Out so successful is that the characters are sort of conflicting with their world, right? They're conflicting with Andy and being toys. They're conflicting with Riley and not wanting Riley to be sad, right? But they're also conflicting with each other. Like Buzz and Woody want to be Andy's favorite toy and they want to be the leader of all the toys, versus like Joy and Sadness don't really understand why the other one is there, similar to how Woody and Buzz don't really understand why the other one is there or what the purpose of the other one is, or couldn't possibly see how all of those things blend together.
So let's talk about a story that we didn't like, that I didn't like, Wish.
Okay, that's a good one because
Because
did
the
not hate it.
villain sort of, you're at the very end, if you haven't seen Wish yet, we apologize. There's gonna be some spoilers in this. But at the very end of the film, you learn that that's how the magic mirror
Right.
comes to be,
He
right?
becomes the magic mirror, and
But-
she becomes the fairy godmother.
But for the life of me, I can't remember why he was hoarding everyone's wishes.
Right.
Like, he was collecting them and he wasn't giving them people, he wasn't granting them. He had this magical power. And because I can't remember why it mattered that he didn't allow those wishes. I mean,
Mhm.
'cause to me, that's where the villain's motivation doesn't make sense. Like, was it because he was afraid that if he granted all these wishes that he wouldn't, people wouldn't see him as the leader, he'd give up? I mean, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I couldn't.
But
tell
it was
you.
like, well, why? Were you not granted a wish as a child? I mean, so if you had a backstory on that guy in the movie where you realize this is why he doesn't want to give up everybody's wishes,
Mhm.
now it makes sense. And so we kind of feel bad for this guy that he's gone this path. There was no redemption for him, right? But it's kind of like, it was kind of dumb, right? I just didn't understand it. I mean, I don't understand why not grant the wish. Just grant the damn wish. Who cares?
Especially because they show you that some of the wishes are like harmless. Like one woman this is so bad. I watched the CinemaSins episode about Wish because I really wanted to know what that guy thought of it. And he points out that one of the wishes that this guy is hoarding is for this woman's like flowers to grow. And the guy's point, and which is not my point, is if the wish is not harming his power, why hoard it? I don't understand. That's so odd. So I think Wish is a really good example of a villain that doesn't have a whole lot of understanding behind it. And I think this is a huge part of why people didn't like the Star Wars sequel trilogies, because I really liked them. Sorry, I know that's kind of a hot take, but I didn't hate the most recent trilogy. But I am sitting here and I cannot for the life of me figure out why Kylo Ren was doing the things that he was doing. Like, what made Ben Solo so angry? Like, that his dad left him? Is that it? Like, is there anything else going on there? Like, I'm sure there is. I just can't recall it at all. And I think that says a lot about the quality of that film, because those characters are great. They're beloved. People love Rey. People love Kylo Ren. People love the Finn character and the Poe Dameron character. And people didn't even hate the storyline.
I'm not so sure they love those characters. I think they wanted to. But again,
I think
give me the
really
setup. Like
Rey.
Finn had a great setup. A stormtrooper who's not really all in, but has been conscripted and forced to be a stormtrooper.
I would watch that
but
movie.
doesn't want to commit these atrocities, sets him up for a hero's journey, and they didn't let it happen.
Right. No, exactly.
Right. You know, they had the Poe Dameron was sort of the sequel trilogy's version of Han Solo,
Right.
but he really wasn't, because it's like he's not really a scoundrel. He's just a smart aleck pilot.
Right.
And they introduced the love interest, you know, so supposedly the woman that he was supposed to have a relationship
Yeah, and
with.
then she dies.
Well, no, she doesn't die.
Yes, she does.
Just,
she gets shot at the end of the third movie.
Well, I don't know if she does or not. I think, but I just think that it tells you what I think about the character. But it's like, you know, it didn't make sense. Kylo Ren, you know, Luke felt the dark side growing in him, and so Luke tries to kill him, and Kylo Ren catches him.
That doesn't sound like Luke at all.
But that's what happened. That's why Luke went away, because he let his, you know, emotions get the most of him. But the other thing about the villain in the sequel trilogy is this Snoke. Everybody thought the Snoke was important.
Snoke dies in like the second
But
movie.
Snoke ends up being, is he
Not
a clone?
important.
The thing, they were growing it, and then the Emperor's back and he's reincarnate. It was too much. It was unbelievable. It was too much of a stretch.
Yeah.
Right? How many people fall down giant holes of energy into oblivion and end up living in Star Wars? Well, you know,
Boba Fett did.
Well,
He
Boba
fell
Fett
into a
got
pit and
the
lived.
Sarlacc pit, and but that's somewhat believable, because you see how he
It-
gets out. You can kind of believe it based on his skill set, right? He
I
used
did
his
not like
skills
that
to get
show.
out. I didn't care for the show either, but that part was probably the best part of the show. But it's like
Probably, yeah.
Darth Maul gets cut in half, falls down a giant pit of energy. Oh, we're just gonna. I mean, in Star Wars Clone Wars, they put him back together. Okay, whatever. But
But to have it twice in the canon, like to have someone come back from the pit of energy 2 times,
Right.
2 completely separate times in the canon of the series is like a huge no for me, because
right.
then
I just
what
didn't
did-
like the whole thing with the Emperor and
if
the last
so many
movie.
people can come back from the dead, what is the point of killing off a character? Like, you know, they're just going to come back. And that's, I think, the huge drawback of Marvel. Marvel loves to kill off characters and be like, oh, surprise, surprise.
Well, some people
And
get
it-
stabbed with lightsabers and die, and some
Some
live.
don't. And some don't. And I don't understand.
Sabine, she took one right through the gut in Ahsoka,
And she's fine.
right?
Allegedly.
I mean, it's like, well, either it kills you or it doesn't.
Right. Like, nobody has like regenerative powers. This is not Deadpool.
I think that's lazy. To me, that's not bad storytelling. That's lazy storytelling. That's like, we need to injure this character. Do they have to get stabbed with a lightsaber?
No. Like,
Could they just trip and like stub their toe and have it hurt really, really bad? Would that suffice? I mean,
I don't know. I can't.
force healing, Andrew says.
Force healing. See, but
Yeah,
things
guess
like force
that's
healing
yeah,
are lazy storytelling. Is a lazy storytelling
right. They're using the
tool
force
to me.
too much. The force has become like the Deus ex machina. It's the
Right.
ghost in the machine. It's the thing that out of the blue saves you. It's like,
Saves you, right.
you know, if somebody would just knock on the door right now and it distract me, the person who's chasing me, then I can get away. Oh, someone knocked on the door, right?
Right.
I mean, it's just
The
too convenient.
miraculous thing that saves everyone all the time, every day, and I just like can't get behind it. I want to talk about Deadpool now that I said his name.
All
I
right.
think the Deadpool films
That's
are
good
all
storytelling.
really, really successful stories. And I think it's because Deadpool is such a bold character. There is no character in the MCU like him. Like Loki doesn't even come close to the level of
But you care about him because of his
insanity.
backstory.
But you care about him because he's this sort of lovable jerk. He's not even quite an anti-hero because he doesn't really do villainous things. He's just kind of a jerk and he's mean and he's not nice to people, but you care about him because he makes you feel bad for him. I think Deadpool is a huge beautiful example of how to write a good character because they show him as being super manipulative and tricky and all of these things. And he's doing all of those things to the audience as well. Like he's doing them in his stories to the people around him, but he's also manipulating the audience into caring about him when ultimately there is no reason to care about Deadpool. He doesn't do anything good.
Well, he wants to be a hero, but he
inherently
has no
good.
filter.
Right.
And his lack of filter extends to his reaction in the moment.
Right.
So the typical, you know, Superman or Captain America hero, you know, would show restraint because part of their strength is the restraint they show to not kill their enemies when they have a chance. 'Cause Superman could literally kill Lex Luthor
Just
and be
like,
done with it.
like you're done.
Right? Batman could just kill the Joker and be done with it. Part of their power is their restraint.
Mm-hmm.
Deadpool has no filter.
Right.
So part of his lovability is he's the opposite of that.
He's like, just like me.
I'm just gonna use my swords or I'm gonna use my gun and I'm gonna be into it.
And then I'm gonna like go down guns blazing, cursing and screaming. He's just like me for real. But like I think Deadpool is just like so great in that way. You've brought up the Joker and Batman again. I want to bring this up one more time. I think maybe is my last point because we're coming up on an hour here. I think what makes a really good story, when going back to sort of the character thing, and it feeds into plot and conflict as well, is when you have a villain or even just another character that has a relationship. I think a huge aspect of the Joker and Batman and their dynamic and why people keep coming back to them is the fact that they're like friends and they talk and like I mean, Batman doesn't ever kill the Joker. Now, Batman doesn't kill, right? That's a huge part of his character and, you know, whatever. But if he seriously wanted to put the Joker away and make sure the Joker never left, he would. Like, it's completely plausible for him to do that with all of his money and power and strength. But the Batman and Joker are like weird buddies. Like they have this weird situation going on, and the ironically, the Lego Batman movie kind of makes fun of it. And the Joker's like, "Don't you just love chasing me, Batman?" And Batman's like, "I don't feel things like that." And the Joker's like, but I have so much fun when we play our little game. And the Batman's like, "This isn't a game to me." And like they make fun of their relationship, right? And I think that is a really powerful tool that I think Disney could exploit more, to be perfectly honest. Like if they gave their villains like a sort of Joker Batman style relationship, because I think that when you add that level of just like humor and humanity to a story, it makes it 10 times more believable and understandable. Like I can't super think of an example off the top of my head except for Captain Hook and Peter Pan, which I've also mentioned a bunch of times already, because they kind of have that like,
well, that's the reason why
friendship relationship going on there.
Well, and I agree with you, and this is why, you know, I know we're coming up on an hour. We're going to have to wrap things up here in just a moment, but this is why I enjoyed the Cruella movie so much.
Yes,
because you finally got to understand how she ended up sort of getting on the path to be what you see in the animated film, but you feel bad for her. and there's a real character in there, and there's a development of a person.
Maleficent too.
And even by the end of Cruella, you're sort of cheering for her.
Yes, like you wanted her to succeed.
But you know where she's going to end up, and where she ends up is not a nice place, right? And that's been, I think
Jack
that's
Sparrow
another
and
example.
Barbossa are also like have that weird friendship dynamic. And you said Cruella and I said Maleficent. Maleficent too. I mean, like when you see that film with Angelina Jolie, like she has this weird like pseudo relationship with Aurora, and she even had a relationship, like a close friendship or even a couple romantic relationship with the king. And so I think when they create that humanity between characters, it makes it more just human and
Right.
understandable, right? Like Jack Sparrow and Barbossa, I think, are a great example of this because they are literal people. They're not animated people, and they're pirates, which is sort of a more plausible thing than like fairies and scary fashion ladies who kill dogs.
And
But
talking lions.
and talking lions. But I mean, yeah, I mean Scar and Mufasa, they're brothers, and if Scar wanted to kill Mufasa earlier, he would have.
Well, I think he didn't have the
even try.
opportunity.
He didn't even want to kill Mufasa. He wanted to kill Simba. He wasn't out to kill Mufasa.
I think,
No.
yeah, he threw him off the mountain with the herd coming by. No, it was all part of his plan. He was trying to kill Simba, but he had an opportunity to do both and take it out. Listen, we are about an hour into this. This sounds like a topic we're going to have to revisit again.
Yes, I
and
think
this has
so.
been a lot of fun live because it's been a natural, free-flowing conversation, which is something we enjoy doing on this show. So
Yes.
let's wrap
Now
things
it's
up,
time
Mimi. Let's give people
For this
the
week's
trivia question and let people know how they can chime in and give us their opinion about stuff.
Yeah. So the question is: in the series Sophia the First, where does Sophia live?
You know, you didn't hold that card up so high that they saw the answer on the back, I hope.
It's okay.
Okay.
So if you guys have any thoughts, comments, opinions on our takes on storytelling, if you want to see more of this, or if you have an answer to this week's trivia question, please feel free to send us an email, disneyassembled@gmail.com, or send us a message on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, X, Threads, Blue Sky. I think that's it. All at Disney Assembled. But if you guys want to support the show further, link to RT Public, Patreon, Buy Us a Dole Whip, all that other stuff is on the website, disneyassembled.com. Make sure you go check it out.
Yeah, if you're listening to this on the audio version, there's probably a video version of it out there, and there will be because we just recorded this live on our YouTube channel. That's right, we do have a YouTube channel. Look for it at Disney Assembled. And if you're watching this live right now, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, you need to do so before you leave your YouTube app. Hit the subscribe button.
And if you're watching live,
So
thank
that-
you guys
yeah.
so much for joining in.
Yeah, this is great.
was
We love
fun.
having the audience out there helping us out.
I
I
thought we were able to do one
really,
more in-person live before I go back to school.
yeah, maybe we'll have to wait. It's only a couple of days. So today is Thursday, actually. I don't think we said it. Today is Thursday, June 9th.
January 9th.
January 9th. June. Why did I say June? January 9th, 2025.
Yeah.
So yeah, only a couple more days. You're heading back to college, but we'll be connecting here or using another service, and we'll be
Yep.
good.
Awesome.
All right, high five.
High
Good
five.
show. Excellent, ladies and gentlemen. We hope this conversation brought a smile to your face, some extra joy to your magic, not joy, right? Joy to your day, magic to your day, joy to. I hope it brought a smile to your face. We hope it made you happy, and we hope it added a little sprinkle of pixie dust to your week. Thank you again for listening. And until next time, see you real soon.
All right, guys, listening on the live, thank you guys so much for joining in. I had so much fun talking about this. I could probably go and go and go on this for hours. This is like my whole thing. I love being creative. So hopefully this makes its way from our mouths to the ears of an Imagineer, and they will hire me to be a storyteller for them. That would be awesome. So,
And you know what? I didn't hit end stream, so we're still live.
no, I know, and that's why I'm talking.
Oh, that's right, because you're talking to them live. I'm confused. I'm so
Well, I was saying
confused.
bye
I'm
to the
like
live
breaking the
people-
fourth wall on our own show.
I was saying bye to the live people independently of ending
That's
the
right,
show.
because we ended the show, which will be the recording part for the audio version.
You must be like really tired because
I'm
what was
pretty
that? Okay, thank you guys so much for joining in.
Thank
you know how
you.
to find us. We just said it. It's also like right here in the words. Follow us at Disney Assembled on all socials. We love you. You're the best, and see you real soon.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.